Talk about the risks of using and abusing drugs and alcohol. We have a little bit of a different perspective on drugs and alcohol than your typical prevention program, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. We're affiliated with a program called Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. Has anybody heard of Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge before? Why would somebody go there? Yeah. Help with what?
With like their drug problems and addictions.
Drug problems and addictions. I'm gonna throw something at you real quick. Yeah, so that's the main reason why somebody would go there. They're struggling with drug or alcohol addiction, and people deal with a lot of different issues in a place like Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. Issues that they probably wouldn't otherwise deal with. Maybe some people are dealing with like depression or maybe a eating disorder or some kind of a family problem, abuse or something, whether it's physical, emotional, or whatever. So people go and talk about those things because otherwise you probably might not get the chance to talk about it, right? Like, do people just go around talking about their feelings on regular conversation? Like, how many of you guys talk about your feelings with your friends on the weekend? Anybody? Yeah, girls? Guys, not so much? I wasn't one of those guys. I wasn't one of those guys that talked about feelings. I held it all in, and I don't know, maybe you guys, some of you in here are like me, but when you talk about that stuff, it's actually a pretty positive thing, talking about things that are going on, things you're struggling with. That's actually a pretty good option. And so in Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge, they encourage people to deal with their issues in a positive way. They teach them how to deal with the root cause and get to the issue of what's causing the drug addiction, and they help you deal with that. But also, they give you a different way to live, right? Different friends, different environment, different place you're in. Because if I smoke pot like every single day, and I wake up in the morning and I realize like, man, I smoke pot every single day, so do all my friends. It's gonna be pretty hard for me to quit doing it that day. Chances are pretty high by the end of the day I'm gonna bump into one of my friends, and chances are I'm gonna end up pretty high. You know what I mean? So like, it's hard to do it if you have the same friends around you smoking weed all the time. And once you go into treatment, you live there. You eat there, you sleep there. You work on those different issues you have for different periods of time. They have like the short-term 30, 60, 90-day program, and then they have the long-term program, which is 12 to 15 months. And when I heard that they had a 12 to 15 month program, I was like, whoa, dude, that's really long. Turns out, there's about 500 people in the program in Minnesota, and over 90% of those people are in that long-term option. The mentality is like, I would rather spend a year of my life in treatment than spend multiple years of my life addicted. So they have that long-term option, as well as the short-term option. And the unique thing about our program, Know the Truth, is that we've struggled with addiction. Bill and I made the choice to use and abuse drugs and alcohol, and because of that, we became addicted. And when we chose to get help with our addiction, we chose Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. We both went through the short-term program and decided to transfer into the long-term program. Bill's been in the program for about 5 months. He volunteered to come out and share his story, so he's going to do that today. I'm going to share my story of addiction, tell about what happened to me. That's the main reason why we're here, is just talk about like what happened to us. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're not here to tell you just say no and don't do drugs. We're just here to tell you like what could happen, what happened to us, and inform you of the negative consequences, because we didn't think it was going to happen to us. You know, like how many of you grow up thinking like, oh, I want to be a drug addict when I grow up, you know? I want to get addicted and go to jail, right? Not me, not Bill, not me. So we didn't plan for it. If you'd have told me when I was 13 that my first drink was going to land me in jail, like I would have probably looked at you like you were crazy. But it happened to me, and so we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about a few other things. I'm going to show a video or two, and I'll throw you guys some of these maybe if I feel nice. That was a joke. But yeah, so that's pretty much the day. If you guys have any questions for us throughout the period of the presentation, just feel free to ask. We get asked a lot of questions. I get asked questions about my mom, my dad, my cousin, my brothers, my sisters, my dog, whatever you want to ask me a question about, I'm totally cool with it. Bill as well, he likes to answer questions. We like to interact with you guys, and any questions you guys have, feel free to ask at any point, or especially at the end of each one of our stories. We'll open it up for questions as well. So, all right, well, that being said, I'm just going to go right into this video right off the bat, and then we'll go into Bill's story. Check it out.
My name is Heidi, and I like to snowboard and go shopping and hang out with my friends.
I'm Dan. I'm just your average guy.
I grew up in Queens, New York. I loved hanging out with my friends, going to movies, having sleepovers, and talking on the phone.
I'm Alec, I'm 18 and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I really like sports, especially football and baseball.
My name's Adam, I'm from Further, Minnesota. I don't have a favorite band, I like all music, country, hip-hop. If it sounds good, I'll listen to it. In my free time, I like to play guitar and sing in a band.
I love spending time with my family, especially doing camping and going tubing and just being out on the lake and on the beach. I did what normal kids do all the time.
I wasn't comfortable with myself, so I used drugs to fit in.
I got into the party lifestyle as a way to escape. I couldn't get away from it. I love the attention I was getting. I love the thrill of doing drugs and feeling accepted.
I don't know, I just like to go to parties and play drinking games and just have a good time with my friends. I went to my first party, drank for the first time, and nothing crazy happened, but I started doing it all the time, and that's when things really got out of control.
I started out smoking pot. I didn't think I'd become anything bad, but one decision led to another. Pretty soon I was trying all these different drugs. In 3 years, I was a full-blown addict of heroin. I had no control over my decisions whatsoever.
First cigarette led me to my first drink. My first drink led me to cocaine. Cocaine led me to heroin. Heroin led me to meth.
At first, it was just drinking on the weekends and fun, but it was like a living nightmare, and I had to use drugs to function.
I started using, and I would do pretty much anything to get the drugs.
Stealing from friends, stealing from houses, stealing from cars.
I got charged with a felony for auto theft, put in jail, and then put on house arrest.
I would do anything to get drugs. I would even use my body, and there were many times I thought I was pregnant. After 6 failed treatments, I was just at like such a low point in my life that I didn't even want to be alive anymore. I just felt so alone, and I didn't know what to do with myself.
And I was looking back at my life saying, how did I get here?
That's when I knew I needed to change.
Alright, so that's kind of just a introduction video about choices and stuff. You're going to hear a lot about choices today. Some of them, better than others. I mean, when all said and done, we're just normal people who had a little bit of a different upbringing. My story is a lot different from Bill's, but we both ended up in the same spot. And it just goes to show, like, somebody who's normal, who like has everything going for them, start making some certain decisions and things can happen you never thought would happen. Like, how many of you know someone that said they would never do drugs and now they're doing drugs? Yeah, and it's just like things happen you never thought would happen. And so just keep that in mind when you hear Bill's story. So please help me welcome Bill.
Good afternoon, class. I'm Bill. I actually grew up in Foley. You guys know where that is? Yeah. A normal life to me was seeing drinking every single day by my parents after work. Started out here when I was 2 years old. My dad was a chronic alcoholic. Got in an accident with me in the vehicle, and he actually died on the first roll, broke his neck, and was dead on scene. And the vehicle rolled another 2 times, and I got somehow slammed in between the passenger door and the door panel or whatnot, and lived. So, and then my sister was born 6 days after that. My mom, she worked at a bar, so she drank, and then she found a guy that she liked, I guess, and he was an alcoholic too. Every day I came home from school trying to be accepted by my mom and my stepdad, showing them how good I could do in school, or just to be respectful, I guess. I was taught manners, but I was also disciplined when I did something wrong, like spankings and whatnot. Anyways, about like 8 or 9 years old, I stole some cigarettes from my mom. I started smoking under my bed, almost started our house on fire. One thing led to another. I got abused for that, like physically. I had bruises all over my butt. I couldn't sit for a few days. It hurt so bad. But I see why I got that. I almost set our whole house on fire. And but anyways, my mom and stepdad broke up when I was about 12 years old, and we moved to Foley. That's where Joe came in the picture, my stepdad, and he actually worked here in Princeton at a welding company, I believe. We used to go to the races all the time, but I started seeing weed around the house. My mom got a check every month for when my dad died, and normally we would get clothes and the food would get stocked up in the beginning of every month, and it wasn't happening. And I broke into their room and I found marijuana in the house. My stepbrother Cody, I brought it down to him first, and he showed me how to get high. So we got high when I was about 11, 12 years old. I was already mixing drinks and drinking on a probably every other weekday. It became more, but I mainly just fell into smoking weed and trying to be accepted by my mom. She'd always push me off. It came to the point when I was like 14 and 15 years old that she found out that I smoked pot, and I'd do the chores around the house, dishes or garbage, and she'd actually give me, instead of an allowance, she'd give me some weed to go smoke and to push me away. So a normal life to me is probably far from normal life to you guys. So I'd end up going to stay at a friend's house, and I remember asking, like, your parents don't drink or nothing like that, and it was just weird to not see that stuff around. I became addicted to meth when I was 15 years old, right at like 8th and 9th grade in that point, and I started using meth. I brought it down to my brother. I found it in my mom's house. I used to tell myself I'll never use that, I'll just smoke pot, and one thing led to another. It just progressed because it was there in my household, I guess. I mean, of course I met kids at school that were doing it because they were influenced by somebody else. And I mean, I just liked partying. I liked, when I was 16 years old, I got $7,000 for when my dad died. We sold all the land, and I took $1,500, bought a truck. Within 2 weeks, I had that truck rolled over with my best friend in the passenger seat. I was drunk. I remember I was smoking some weed that night, and I lost control around the gravel corner. And I just think back to, like, because I was drunk, what if I would have took my buddy's life or my life, just like my dad took his life in that car accident. And then I told myself, alright, so I won't drink. Drinking's my problem, so I'll just cross addiction and go into something else. So I decided just to take up meth and prescription pills. Adderall, I was prescribed that for ADHD because I'm hyper all the time and couldn't stay focused in school, so the doctor told me just to take this amount and no more, just 20 milligrams every morning, and I did that, and I was able to function in school and concentrate, pass, but I became to, like, be sad for a long period of time, depressed. And my mom, ended up finding my pills all gone, and I was selling them. I told her to supply my habit of meth, and I ended up using meth with my parents before I was done with school. When I was in 11th and 12th grade, it was like skipping school every week, a few times out of the week just to get high. Currently I'm in Teen Challenge now. From one poor decision that I made in 2011, it was probably March 2011, I got caught stealing from houses and stealing guns for a burglary, first degree, and I go to court tomorrow for sentencing for that. I'm facing up to 41 months in prison because of one poor decision to get high on meth and stay up for weeks, which had led me not to even think. It's pretty much like when you drink and drive, you're what's that word? Like your vision's blurred up. I just wasn't thinking clear. So I ended up stealing, and my cousin's in prison right now for that charge. I found out that I was going to be a dad too right after that. So that was my motivation to change. I've always wanted to quit using drugs, but I was addicted. I used to wake up in the morning and I didn't want to do anything unless I could get high and then start my day. And I was just sick of living that way. My fiance, her family I started living with them in 11th and 12th grade. They wanted to give me help, put me in a treatment, but I didn't want to get treatment because I felt like I was imposing in a way, and I didn't know how to handle that love that they showed me, like, how was your day, you know, how was work, you know, and I just didn't know what to do with that, you know, trying to give me hugs all the time. I never received that when I was younger at home. I was pushed away and, you know, here, go do this, go do that, you know, not sit down and have board night or family night or play football or whatever with your dad or whatever, go on bike rides. I never had any of that, and so I'd reject myself out of that family, and I'd go back to town where I could get high for a couple of days and feel accepted normally again, which is really weird because I was already accepted there. All I had to do was accept it, and I didn't accept it. I would reject myself out of the situation. But after I found out I was going to be a dad, I started changing my friends that I hung around with. I cut all the ties, and I wanted to get my life rolling because I didn't have nothing to be proud of except for, I guess, graduating, which is a miracle that I graduated. I don't know how I did it. I mean, I don't even remember school really, and it's just like, looking back at it, it's like, wow. And then all of a sudden you find out that I'm going to be a dad was the motivation finally to get right. And I ran for a warrant. I had a warrant for my arrest. I ran out to North Dakota, worked out there. I thought I was doing good because I was supporting my future daughter being born and you know, my girlfriend at the time. And so I was sending home money, and I was coming home, and she was born in October of 2011. She's a little over a year and a half old now. And I ended up going back out to North Dakota, came back for Christmas, going back out there, and I came back. I almost got in a serious accident out there. Somehow the back end just clipped the truck instead of the passenger seat where I was sitting at from being drunk trying to go get weed. So it was like, wherever I went, I was always able to find drugs. They're so easy to come by, and it was just so easy for me to turn to drugs instead of trying to deal with my problems and trying to face my anger issues or my frustration. I just felt better to be able to put something in my body. So I mean, after I came back, I remember it was April 26th, and I remember turning myself into jail. I didn't want to go in, but something just made me open the door, and I went in. I said goodbye to her, and it was 270 days until I was able to actually physically touch her again and to touch my daughter again. I watched my daughter grow up through a glass window. I watched her crawl, watched her walk through that window. Talked on phone calls for 5 to 10 minutes once or twice a week. Just my relationships were destroyed pretty much, and she never gave up on me. She's still with me. She still supports me. She's, you know, and my sister, I've watched her travel a path of just slowly falling down. She's gotten in trouble with a minor consumption. She's gotten a theft charge, and luckily enough, she got it right before she turned 18, and the judge said, as long as you complete this community service and do this, you know, I'll let it not be a felony theft or whatnot. So, but it's just like a ripple effect has happened because of my choices. And like, there's a guy that's in Lino Lakes Correction Facility for teenagers. There's a guy in Teen Challenge that I met that just went over there and seen him, and the guy, my girlfriend's friend is pregnant or had a kid with him, and I remember you pushing meth on Ben, trying to get him to use, because I didn't want him to leave not being high because I thought he would tell on me. And he ended up getting caught being high and failing probation, and now he had to go to like prison for kids, because I feel like it's my fault that I pushed that on him. And it's just been a ripple effect. The whole town of Foley is just, all these kids are getting into drugs now, and it wasn't like that when I first got there. Like, I brought the harder drugs in, and I feel like that it was my fault. But while I was being in jail, I noticed that just that one poor decision I made to stay up for weeks took away over a year of my life of being away from my kid. That I mean, I'm a father to her. I'm the best dad I can be now. Just Monday, I had 6 hours of being able to take her around the park, play on a slide, and just had so much fun, so much joy. You know the difference between happiness and joy? You know, being happy for a couple minutes to being joyful all the day for the next week of what just happened that one day. So, you know, getting high only made me happy for a little bit, but in the reality, it became to be like a normal thing for me to even function, for me to even, I couldn't even control it. I was making decisions that were just off the wall, disgusted with myself, and and anyways, being in Teen Challenge, I'm starting to deal with my core issues of why I fell in addiction. I'm starting to talk with my mom about, you know, why'd you do this? Why, you know, and trying to figure out why she pushed drugs on me or why she did drugs too, you know. She's probably got her issues too that she didn't solve or resolve. She just tried to take an easy way out, and I just followed that because I was taught that. But yeah, so I've been doing good in the program. I've been sober for, you know, a little over. You know, I could get drugs in jail too. I used pot in jail a couple times, and it's fairly easy to get drugs wherever I went. It's everywhere. So I just know that I gotta hang out with different group of people. Just like Will said, the environment in Teen Challenge is completely different than where I used to live. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I got. If I can just encourage you guys, I'd just make a good decision when that stuff's gonna come up in your life, because somebody's gonna bring something to you. So that's how it all started, kind of, with me. I know other people that I brought to. But anyways, thanks for having me all here. You guys got any questions?
Give Bill a hand.
No questions? Somebody's gotta have a question.
How's your relationship with your mother?
It's being restored. I have resentments against her. I mean, why? I mean, I can ask all the questions, why this, why that, you know. So I mean, it's starting to be built up on a sober relationship instead of like almost a drug friend mom and son relationship. So I mean, it's better now that she's sober. You know, it's definitely growing. Yeah.
What day in October is your daughter born on?
Born on October 16th. 8 pounds and 6 ounces, 23 inches long. Any other questions? None? Oh, alright.
What do you think is going to be one of the biggest things to stay sober moving forward?
Well, I need to get a job that is probably going to be felony friendly because I'll have a felony, but probably a good support network. Finding hobbies that I can do with my daughter, be active instead of getting bored and becoming depressed. Yeah, joining maybe an AA club or something to do. I mean, I know they got some softball leagues that are non-alcoholic and stuff like that you just go out to have a good time. You don't need drugs to have fun, I've learned in the last 6 months pretty much of being on my way to Teen Challenge and being in Teen Challenge. I've had more fun in the last 5 months of my life than I could say since I was 14 years old. So, any other questions? Yeah?
How long have you been sober again?
I used last year I was in jail probably in July, right around 4th of July. A couple guys got arrested and they'd sneaked the drugs in, so then was the last time I used. So I was able to take a family pass, and you know, it came back to mind wanting to go use, but I didn't because I know that I can't screw up, you know, so didn't want to. I like your shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You guys excited for summer to come?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You guys go to the races at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun time.
Alright, well, let's give